The 23-24 season is firmly underway, and we've already seen great performances by the most unlikely of teams, and also some major disappointments. It's true that a lot can change since we're only getting started, but I found this the perfect time to reflect on what has been going on in club football. In this video, we'll be going through the 5 most surprising and disappointing teams of the season, analyzing what has been missing, what has been working, and predicting if they'll continue performing the way they currently are. Make sure you stay until the end, because I'll be dropping some controversial takes that I can't wait to hear your opinion about. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Number 10. Brighton and Hove Albion. I'd be lying if I said that I was expecting Brighton to continue having great results. I wasn't impressed with their transfers. I thought they had let many stars go and it would come back to bite them. But instead, the team looks better than ever, working as a unit under the Zerbi. We can highlight some players, such as Evan Ferguson, who's been showing that he can evolve into a lethal goal scorer, the ever-exciting Kaoru Mitoma, or the improved Billy Gilmore. But all the praise must go to the Zerbi. Since the beginning, he has shown he can bring out the best in his players, and his man management skill is fantastic, never letting a player's ego get in the way of what's best for the team. It's clear that Brighton is a club with a plan, and I don't think that it's that unrealistic if they end up finishing in the top 4. Number 9. Burnley. Another Premier League team, but this one has been extremely disappointing. Last season, the Claret dominated the championship and played attractive attacking football under company. This year, the team looked even better on paper. They brought in the promising James Trafford, Aaron Ramsey and many other players, so squad depth isn't a problem for Burnley. However, company's ideas don't seem to be working that well in the Prem, as they're now facing stronger sides that destroy them when they try to play positive football. It's a completely new environment, but I thought that Kompany would be able to adapt his style to counter the more effective Premier League sides, but they continue to be playing as if they were in a championship. Well, if they continue like this, it won't take too long before they're back in the second tier, destroying the minnows like last year. Number 8. Girona. This one is by far the most unexpected surprise of the season. They might not be league leaders anymore when you're watching this, but going unbeaten in the first 7 La Liga matches is something impressive for a team who just a few seasons ago were playing the second tier of Spanish football. Led by Michel, this group isn't full of stars, but works perfectly well as a unit, with a veteran Blind, Yangel Herrera and Viktor Tsigankov being the cornerstones of the squad. And in case you didn't know, the Catalan outfit is part of the City football group, acting as feeders club for Manchester City. Should they continue performing like this, I could see them inspiring more European teams to follow their ways. Number 7. Sevilla. I don't know, should we even be disappointed with Sevilla? In a way, I think we should, because although they don't have great squad depth, they have enough star power to be among the 6 best teams. But still, year after year, they have been getting gradually worse in the league. I'm not saying they'll be in a relegation battle, but luck eventually runs out. The only reason Sevilla still has a relatively decent squad is because of the Champions League money they have been receiving due to their outstanding Europa League performances. The thing is, from 2024 onwards, no teams from the Champions League will drop to the Europa League. So unless they start conditioning their team to perform well in the league, the club will be in massive trouble by the end of the decade. Number 6. Bayer Leverkusen. Xabi Alonso deserves all the praise in the world, considering that he took a Leverkusen side that was in the relegation spots and brought them all the way to the Europa League semi-finals and to a 6th place league finish. This season, the Spanish legend is taking the club to even higher flights. At first sight, it looks like they'll be Bayern's only opponents in the Bundesliga title race, and unless something drastic happens, they will at least be able to return to the Champions League. Grimaldo and Boniface are proving themselves to be game changers in his ever-attacking team, and depending if they can add more depth to their squad in January, I can see them as one of the candidates to win the Europa League. Number 5. Lyon. I can't say that I'm that surprised with Lyon's performance this year, since I had already tipped them to struggle in this video. But damn, what a fall from grace. Lyon won the league 7 years in a row during the 2000s, and despite them losing their best players season after season, they were still able to put up great performances in Europe. Nowadays, they just look like a desperate club looking for money. It's clear that their financial situation isn't great, but immediately selling your young stars as soon as they start showing some promise is a terrible long-term strategy. They don't have an experienced coach, much less a plan for the future, and they solely rely on the experience of all veterans such as Lacazette or Lovren. Young players like Cherki and Diego Moreira look good on paper, but they are yet to show consistency, and even if they do, it won't be long before they leave. Number 4. Al-Taawoun. It's clear there are 4 teams with a clear advantage in the Saudi League. Al Ahly, Al Nassr, Al Ittihad and Al Hilal have considerably more stacked rosters than the rest, and some teams don't even have a single star in their ranks. One of them is Al-Taawoun. Coached by a man with one of the most peculiar names in the Portuguese language, Pericles Chamusca, the Wolves have been punching way above their weight, currently sitting above Ronaldo's Al Nassr and Mahrez Al Hilal at the time I'm making this video. If I had to highlight a single player from the roster, I would pick right winger Mateus, who joined from Nagoya Grampus in Japan, but already counts 7 goal contributions in 7 matches. It's unclear if they'll be able to keep a top 3 position, but it would be extremely ironic if the Saudi League winner was one of the teams who had spent the less. Number 3. Ajax. Not too long ago, Ajax possessed one of the most captivating squads in Europe, but since Erik ten Hag's departure, the club has been free falling to the abyss, and this season hasn't been any different. They have invested quite a lot in the transfer market and brought in several exciting youngsters, such as Carlos Borges and Josip Sutalo, but they don't have many experienced players in the squad to balance it out. Their new coach, Maurice Stein, hasn't achieved enough in his career to deserve this prestigious role, and it shows, since Ajax have only won one Eredivisie match at the time I'm making this, and they have already been decimated by Feyenoord at home. I believe they can still turn their fortunes around, but they need a new coach as soon as possible and some experienced players when the transfer window opens up again. Number 2. Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think many people predicted Spurs to be doing so well in the Prem, especially without Harry Kane. Ange Postecoglou's ability to coach a high-level Premier League team was also questioned by many, and I was certainly one of them. I didn't believe winning the Scottish League was an incredible feat that solidified him as an elite manager, but what he's been doing with Spurs is clearly a step in that direction. Tottenham have been playing a high-pressure, possession-based game, finally embodying the role of a big team who doesn't tremble in front of their peers and that decimates the weaker squads. James Maddison is without a doubt the MVP in this squad, with his creativity bringing in many goals for the Spurs, but I also have to give a special mention to Mickey van de Ven, who has been terrific as of late. It is still too early to tell if they'll be in title contention until the end of the season, but I believe that a return to Champions League football is attainable for Ange's man. And finally, as the most disappointing team in the world, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Chelsea. Before the World Cup, many Chelsea fans said that after the winter transfer window, they would bounce back. They didn't, in fact, they got even worse. But hey, many players were coming in, it would take them time to adapt. By the next season, everything would be better. We're in the next season now, and after more than €1 billion spent on transfers, the club is worse than ever. So much money being thrown around to unproven youngsters, and the worst part of it all is that the club is offering extremely long contracts to those same players. For example, Enzo and Caicedo have contracts that can run until the next decade. That's a massive gamble that goes against any logic whatsoever. If you give them the best contracts right away, what motivation do they have to reach the top? Most importantly, if Chelsea wants to get rid of them, how do they plan on doing so? They can just sit out their contracts and no matter what, they'll be set for life. Chelsea are putting themselves at the mercy of youngsters, and the only reason why I don't tip them for a relegation battle is because Burnley, Luton and Sheffield are probably the worst trio of promoted teams in Premier League history. But trust me, it's gonna get worse, and Chelsea, as we know them, are dead and buried already. And that is it for the video. Don't agree with some of my opinions? Then leave your own ideas in the comments and let's start the discussion. Leave a like if you want to watch more content like this, and subscribe so you never miss the most interesting football discussions, stories, and top 10 lists. Thank you for watching until the end, I appreciate you, and I will see you soon.